Okay, it is October 29th. We are bringing you a Lake the Ozarks fishing report brought to you by James and Denise Steele Guide Service here on Lake the Ozarks. If we can ever help you in any way down here at the lake, we'd sure appreciate the opportunity to get you out on the water and show you how much fun it can be here on the Ozarks. So we've been doing a lot of bass fishing here lately, last several weeks. This week got out, did some bass, but we're starting to kind of switch over to crappie a little bit too. They're getting a lot more aggressive, a lot more of them piling up on some open brush piles. Getting out, there's still a lot of them on these docks, but there's a lot of them kind of, getting out on the edges, maybe the braces, maybe a little bit of shady corners, shady sides. They're getting a little more accessible, I guess. I guess we'll start with the bass though, since we've been doing so much bass fishing lately. Fished a few tournaments, had some bass trips, a couple crappie trips. But the bass, we're into the fall now. There's still some lingering late summer, early fall stuff going on. When I mean by that, like we're still catching some around shallow docks, flipping shallow docks. More shallower stuff. Not that that's going to change where they're at, but maybe the baits that we're going to start leaning a little more too. Different baits, obviously, that's been working jig wise. The jig's been pretty consistent still, but we've kind of switched, I guess, the style or size of the jig a little bit. I don't have one out here, but like your small little 3/8 ounce Crappie Gator finesse zapper jig, it's coming on. I would say, another couple weeks here. That's going to really start catching a lot more fish than, like, say, September, early October, where we're throwing bigger baits, trying to imitate bigger shad, just like a big bite or a big meal for the fish. So I really kind of got turned on to, because along with Mark Weesey and myself and Denise, we designed this Wheezy jig by Crappie Gator several years ago, and there's different things about it that Mark really likes, and we had a pretty good discussion last week about it after him and Kelly won the Ozark Mountain Team Trail Championship down here. I was throwing a 1/2 ounce zapper, and I'll be honest, I jumped a couple fish off more than I'm used to, or more than I'm comfortable with. Put it like that. Not that I'm comfortable with losing any fish, but either way, me and Mark got to talking, and Mark was throwing exclusively the 5/8 ounce Wheezy jig. You can see it's kind of a football style jig. It's got 2 cuts on the head, so if you're dragging it, it'll stand up. But the big thing we was talking about was the weed guard. It's an extra sturdy, extra hard. There's like a light, a medium fiber, and a heavy fiber. And this is a heavy fiber. And when we was talking about losing some fish, and he strongly believes that this heavy weed guard, when you're flipping super shallow, 4 foot, 5 foot and less, you're only flipping, 20 foot maybe, sometimes not even that. Either way, all we're getting at is, when you feel a bite, or you detect a bite, or you see that line moving off, and you crack them with this weed guard, it's going to compress, because you're really pulling on them. You've got 20-pound test, 17, 20-pound test, heavier action rod. That weed guard's going to compress. But what it's doing is, when you get them fish hooked, now it's starting to act like a keeper to keep these fish buttoned up. It doesn't move as much, and it keeps that jig tightly firmly rested in their mouth once you've got them hooked, and they can't throw it as much. That jig don't move around as much, and it keeps them pinned against the roof of their mouth. You know, so earlier, let's see, this week and last week, I went out and I threw this a lot more than I normally do. Normally I throw this in the winter, or maybe say in June when I'm dragging it out on these points and stuff. I never really threw it as a shallow flipping jig. But after what I've seen this week, obviously it wasn't tournament day, so I didn't lose any fish. You know, that only happens on tournament day.
Yeah.
You know, you can do anything and not lose them during the week. But I was you know, definitely, you know, I ain't gonna say impressed, but definitely impressed with the fish that I did not lose flipping this jig shallow. So if you're having any issues, you know, losing fish, and it, you know, we all know, you know, summertime through, I don't know, once that water gets down in the low 50s, these fish are active. They come up, they jump 18 inches, 2 foot. They're shaking. They'll jump 3-4 times, and they're doing, you know, they are active, and that's, you know, obviously they'll throw baits. So either way, this bait this week and last week flipping shallow was definitely you know, an eye opener as far as how many fish you get hooked with this. It's got a big stout meat hook on it. It's got a keeper on it like no others. It's got 2 wire barbs, one on the bottom, one on the top, and it holds these plastics. Like this is a punch hog by Crappie Gator. I say Crappie Gator, sister company H2. And it's kind of a combination between like a brush hog, a sweet beaver, I don't know, just a couple other things. Got a lot of vibration, a lot of movement, fits nice on a jig like this. It's a big profile, big bait. Either way, that bait,
They're hitting it on the fall, or?
well, they kind of hit on the fall, but they also wanted this bait. Once it hit the bottom, it hits that bottom, maybe stirs up a little dirt, and these fish will swim over to investigate, and you move it once and they get on it. So this bait here, if you haven't used the Wheezy jig, maybe check them out and try them out a little bit, because they are definitely the you know, everything they're supposed to be. They got big high profile eyes on top of them, so you know, if it is a little clear water and that bait's sitting on the bottom and these fish swim up to it, you know, they see them eyes, they see that thing move, it just looks like, you know, a live bait. So
They've made improvements to it.
they've done some things, but I don't know everything they've done. But either way, that Wheezy jig is definitely a quality, super quality jig that you may want to look, you know, as an alternative to, say, like the you know, the zapper. I'm still going to throw that. I throw the zapper a lot, swimming it. In the wintertime, I'm going to throw the zapper. It's got a little wiry hook and a medium guard. You know, I feel like I'm going to feel the bites better, and maybe a little better hookup ratio with that wire hook. So that's my deal on the Wheezy jig. You know, other baits, obviously, you got a shake head? Yep. Yeah. That we've been throwing, you know, we kind of got away from the small mag finesse in the fall, early winter, because we feel like these fish are really looking and keying on big gizzard shads. So a bigger profile bait it seems to do a lot better for fish in the fall. What you got there?
Got the Magnum UV.
Mm-hmm.
It is in the watermelon red.
Mm-hmm.
But it's big through here. It ends up getting small here, and this is where your action is, where you've got this cut tail here in the back.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have it set up on a 1/4 ounce, so you know, you're changing it up from that heavy jig to maybe if you need to go a little lighter with your shaky head. And E Factor also has a great shaky head. that has that nice coil keeper. Jim's got one of those here.
We, obviously we throw the Crappie Gator almost exclusively, especially on the mag finesse, smaller worms, and even like on your, even like the mag trick worm, these bigger worms. But when we found switching to a bait like this one here, a bigger, fatter one, and like even like the Bait Cave thick stick, these are a bigger bait, bigger diameter bait. And we found that like E-Factor makes a version of their shaky heads, and this one in particular, this is the 3/8 ounce, but you can see how big that hook is and how long that hook is, and how long that shaft is and how much further that gets up into that worm. Big solid hook. So on a little bit bigger worms, even like a 10-inch power worm, this big thick stick, that's the Zoom Ultra UV U-Vive worm. It's just bigger diameter, and we just found like the E-Factor hook shaky head has been doing a lot better as far as getting them hooked and pinned up really good. So obviously our Crappie Gator, the heads, those are super quality, eyes on them, super quality hooks, wiry hooks, again, a little more finessey, I guess, when we're throwing smaller finesse worms, things like that, the wiry hook. But in a case like this with a bigger worm, I think something with a bigger, longer hook, like these E-Factors, are going to probably do you a little better job just getting a little further up into that worm. So when they pick that big worm up, they're more likely to have that hook in their mouth.
Yeah, me personally, I think about the length of the worm, and I typically try to throw those smaller, shorter worms because I feel like they don't have to take as much of it in their mouth before they get a hold of that hook. So that's exactly what we're saying, is having that longer shank on that hook on those longer baits. You just kind of feel like your hookup ratio is going to be better.
A lot better.
Yeah.
So obviously the jig's still been working, shaky head's been working, whether it be different version of worms on it, but we're definitely starting to get a lot more into top water. Top water has been working for the last, it'll work, throughout the summer, early falls, but really where you can almost say you could go out and throw top water all day long. We're getting into that season. Once we get into mid-October, late October, all through November, all the way into early December, there's a lot of days you can go out and throw just a top water and be very productive. You can catch a lot of fish, but you can also catch a lot of big fish this time of year. So, water temp, right now, I'm going to say is 67, probably 70, 72. It's really dropped this last week. It's 40, I don't know, 46 degrees out today. She's got a little electric coat on.
Yeah.
But
I sleep in it.
it's definitely, the water temp's coming down, and that's triggering. Everything else has been kind of ready, but now that water temp's coming down. We're still waiting on these big gizzards to start running the bank and getting big schools up on the banks, maybe in the very backs, bring up some of these bigger fish to where they'll be running the banks and be a little more productive. But we have definitely been catching them on top water. Obviously the good old standard 3/4 ounce Crappie Gator head knocker buzzbait, black and gold. I throw it on 50-pound braid. Always got a trailer hook on it. You can adjust it to hit real hard, just barely tick on it. And obviously with a bait like these, the longer you use it, the better it gets as far as squealing and the sound. This one, I've been throwing it for a while, the paint's wore off. But, That's my favorite top water to throw, mainly because one, it calls up a lot of big ones, but two, I feel like if I get them hooked on the buzzbait, I'm more likely to get them in the boat than like what she's going to talk about this. The Chapo, it calls them up, but the hook up and keep ratio kind of goes down a little bit on those.
Yeah, it's an up and down roller coaster throwing this thing because you have a lot of misses. But then again, when they get a hold of it, you know it's going to be a good size fish that's probably going to go in your live well. But I Maverick is the color I typically throw. I'm just really hung up on that color, and this is your 120, and it you're talking big chunk rock. You're also talking about moving on to your secondaries. And then even in the backs, any kind of laydowns that you're seeing, any kind of, if they're schooling, if you see them, that is typically exactly where you would throw your buzzbait. I also want to talk about the newest Chapo that I've seen out. Fitz has these. And I believe the Maverick, and they also have the bone color. It is called the Screamin' Chapo 110. And I typically throw your normal Chapo, but I put this on, and there is a definite different sound than your normal. It's more high pitched, and it is just a phenomenal bait.
I have not thrown that bait. So you're saying
I have.
The plopping is the sound or same, but it has a squeal to it?
Yes, it definitely has a squeal to it.
So like I was talking about the buzzbait, throwing it for a while before it starts squealing. This, just looking at the back of the package, it's designed to squeal right out of the package. So
yeah, it says a metal tail insert, and the sound resonates chamber in the back. So it is, I saved this one specifically in the package so that I would be able to talk about it. It's definitely what I'm going to be throwing from here on out.
Yeah, and the deal with, squealing on buzzbait or squealing this or different pitch in the plop, sound in water is like 6 times it's magnified 6 times in water compared to outside the water. So it doesn't take much for fish to detect a different sound, which may be what triggers them to bite. So that's why different baits, this is the regular Chapo 120 and the gizzard shad color. You can see that looks like a shad. I really like that one. But then you got the Screamin' Chapo, which gives you a little squealing noise. You got like the head knocker buzzbait. That's going to give you a knocking noise and also a squealing noise. And then you got the kind of the original Whopper Plopper, which is still a great bait, but it definitely has a duller sound, less. It just has a different sound than like the Chapo. But a lot of times we'll throw both. One will throw the Chapo, one will throw the Plopper to see if one day they just want that little deadened sound, little duller sound, or they want that higher pitch. The fish are extremely picky this time of year, especially when you're talking about topwater. Topwater is probably the most, the fish are most picky to a topwater bait than any other bait there is, I believe. Maybe crankbait sometimes, the rattle, the wobble, but for the most part, and since we're talking about fall, I'm going to say right now that the topwater baits are definitely baits that you want to throw, but you definitely want to switch it up if you're not getting bites. So, we've got those topwaters.
An interesting thing I want to talk about is he mentioned the buzzbait, of course, how you can change the blade and change that sound. It almost makes me think of the Chapo and the Whopper Plopper, how you can kind of change that sound depending on which bait you're throwing.
And speed has a lot to do with it too. I mean, you can slow it down, you can speed it up, and then there's that perfect speed when you get a high pitch and a louder plop out of, especially the Chapo. That definitely seems to help sometimes.
Nice.
You know, you got other top waters like this Gunfish by, what was this, Greenleaf?
Evergreen.
Evergreen. I knew it was green something. Evergreen. You know, this is that Gunfish. It's a big top water. It makes a lot of commotion. You can work it real fast, slow, but it makes a lot of commotion, and it imitates more of the big gizzard shad. If they're in the backs or if they're right up on the bank, you can throw this right up to the bank and hit and pop it a couple times and maybe spook them gizzards and get yourself draw some attention to it alongside docks, in the backs, anywhere you think some shad are or you're seeing shad. Just a big top water. Like this is slow moving, kind of more of a walking bait compared to the Chapo or buzz bait. That's a definite retrieve. This is more of a stay in front of them, slower action. This works pretty good now, but as you get colder, it starts working a lot better. All the way up to 48, 50 degrees. You can still throw this big bait and just make a lot of commotion, a lot of splashing, and draw them big fish up. So this is obviously working now, but it'll work way deeper into the season than maybe some of your other buzz baits.
I'll mention the chug bug. One thing we were just kind of talking about is how your presentation and your bait can change depending on what you're using. This bait here is also that same way in a sense that your retrieve can be nice and slow, or you can be real aggressive with your pops. And just kind of change that a little bit, change it as you kind of monitor, what the fish are doing. I will mention our trailer hooks. We have been replacing our back trailer hooks, and we called Jessica from E-Factor, and she made some replacement hooks for us.
Good quality feather hooks.
Good quality.
On Gamakatsu number 4 treble hooks.
Yeah.
A lot, I mean, it's not even comparable to what
right.
The ones that come on are kind of cheapy.
Yeah.
Foil. They come apart after a couple fish. So
yeah, this
is
a
something you might consider.
Great trailer hook. You're looking at your slow moving baits. Just anything that's got that trailer hook that you would maybe need to replace. So call Jess or Justin at E-Factor.
So another bait. It's coming on. It works really good in the fall. Now through, just like most of these baits, I'm gonna say through first week of December, but it's a wake bait. There's like the old cotton cordell redfin we used to throw all the time, still throw it, but this is a wake bait. This is from 6 Senses, called the Movement 80 wake bait, and you can see it's a pretty good profile. But a wake bait, you're just throwing it up there. Speed is a big factor on a wake bait. You don't want to throw it too fast. Sometimes it'll get down below the surface. I found best you just throw it out there and reel it slow and watch that bait until it's putting out a wake right on top of the surface. And it will create and draw up some of the most violent strikes in the fall that you will ever see is on a wake bait. And you can stop it. It's something else with a wake bait. You can work it for a while. You can stop it, let it sit still, and start it up again. A lot of times that'll create a bite. But just wake baits in the fall are really good, just like your top water. Me and Lisa was talking a little earlier about how some days they just don't want to come up and hit the top water. You'll get a lot of boils, a lot of hits, and a lot of it's dependent on the shad and what the shad are doing. If the shad are up on the bank, running the bank, and you can see them up there, or they're busting out on the surface, you're seeing them just under the surface, those are your top water days. Obviously the bait's up, the fish are going to be up, and the top water is going to imitate what the fish are doing. Now, if you're not seeing that, or they're not real active. You know, your wake bait, a big giant square bill that imitates. You know, you can see this just looks like a big gizzard shad. This is just a square bill. This is also 6 cents. Cloud 9 Magnum SB 9.8. Looks like a giant gizzard. You can throw it right up on the bank and just reel it in real slow. You can reel, you know, a little faster. These can be extremely productive if you're getting a lot of short strikes or a lot of boils on the top water and they don't necessarily want to come to the surface. Switch it up to a square bill, like one of these big Magnums, you know, or like a wake bait. What else was you going to talk about? That square or
the chatterbait. Chatterbait. I don't have a trailer hook on it. I need a trailer hook on it. But I'm looking at this is a 1/2 ounce hammer.
She's got that green pumpkin color. What is that tail? You know?
I do not know.
Yeah, it's kind of a straight tail. You know,
it's made by 6 cents.
Trailer. And then you see here, I got more of a shad color, a glimmer blue with a white trailer on it. Where normally you would put your jig trailer, you know, flat on the chatterbait. You want to put it vertical so that thing will vibrate, you know, when that thing's coming through the water. So it's the same type of a trailer for a jig.
Sure.
Like this, you can see it, but you're going to turn it sideways so it's like this, so it gets a lot of flash, a lot of movement. Where she's got a little straight tail, but this one has a lot more movement. We're talking great for throwing, you know, just right on points where you throw top water, but this is also good to throw in the very backs when they're pushing them shad in the backs, and you're seeing a lot of busting, a lot of action. You know, you can just fan cast with a chatterbait and cover a lot of water, dock corners, alongside docks, you know, stuff like that. Chatterbait's a really good bait. Definitely when they're not committing on your top water a whole lot, you can throw this out, and a good way to throw this is throw it out, let it sink all the way to the bottom, and stroke it up like you would a big jig in June. You just kind of stroke it off, you know, the bottom, let it vibrate back down, or obviously you throw it out and just retrieve the thing,
retrieve it parallel.
Just steady. Yeah, you know, which brings us into the next bait, which we're throwing a little bit, but that's going to come on really good. It's just a big spinner bait. This is just a big custom one that I made myself, big 3/4 ounce. Got a number 4 nickel with a Colorado on the front, little gold. And then another big popular one is down here at the Lake Ozarks. This is called Ozark Flash Color. This is an E-Factor one. It's got a chartreuse and a white blade. You can see I got a trailer hook on it. And when we get into the fall and we start, like today would be an excellent spinnerbait day. It's real windy, it's cold, it's overcast, the water temp's coming down. A spinnerbait is a really good big fish bait, a reaction bait, a bait you can wake right on the surface. You can let it go all the way to the bottom, slow roll it. You can you know, ease it down these contours of your bank if it's a little steeper. You can cover every part of the water column with a spinnerbait. It's why it makes it so effective. You can work it around shallow brush, shallow docks, and it covers a lot of water. And the spinnerbait's something that will work well into December, you know, down into the mid 40s on water temp. That spinnerbait can be extremely productive. You know, if it's windy,
it's a great fun bite.
Yeah, if it's windy and overcast, you know, sometimes it gets a little too windy to really throw a whole lot of stuff. A spinnerbait's your friend on those days because you can throw it anywhere. A big 3/4 ounce, you can throw it and you know, work it at whatever depth until you find those fish. You know. Other baits, obviously the glide baits. The glide baits are coming into play. This is that Spro, Chad Shad 180. This is, I'd call that, what do they call that color? It's in a bone package, but it's not a bone. So it's basically like a gizzard shad. It's got that little chartreuse on it. And then we also throw that bone color, the same one. Throw that on, some heavy 17, 20-pound test, a heavy rod. They're extremely easy to throw. They look a little intimidating. They can be intimidating when you're thinking about throwing a big glide bait. But if you've never thrown one, just get you a heavy action rod, like a 7.2, 7.6, heavy, spool it up with 17, 20-pound test. Take one of these and just throw it up towards the bank. And when that thing hits, let it sit for a couple seconds, and then just start moving your reel, a start and stop, or you can just reel it slow, stop, reel it a little bit, stop, start, stop, whatever, and watch that bait. And if you really watch that bait, then that'll tell you how you need to work that handle to get the retrieve that you want it to look like. Because sometimes you want that thing just swimming through the water. Other times you want it darting back and forth. Sometimes you want to start and stop it when these shads start to die off a little bit, or they're not overly active. You want it a little slower, but some days are really active. And those are the days you throw it on the bank, and as soon as it hits you real quick, and that thing darts off to the bank, like them big gizzards, and then you stall it and start real slow, and it'll pull them fish up that are out there, down there at 5, 6, maybe 10 foot of water. It'll draw them up if they're not wanting to hit top water, and then out over these big chunky rocks, maybe a 45-degree bank. As they start moving, a little steeper banks, and definitely on a solid gizzard shad bite. Obviously, these two baits are going to imitate.
Bone, and that's threadfin.
Threadfin, that's right. Some days you'll catch a lot on it. Most of the days you don't catch very many fish on it, but when you catch one, it's a good one. So it's a good way to go out and maybe catch you one of these fall monsters right now. So
you wouldn't believe the people that come in the store and they're at Fitz's and they're like, what are you fishing for with those baits?
They're so big that you'll catch a 12-inch Kentucky on them.
Yeah.
You just do. Other baits, obviously we're throwing the head knocker, the X-Bite buzz bait made for the frog, for the X-Toad. It skips real good under these cables when these fish, maybe on a little sunnier day when they get on them catwalks, or you're fishing in and around these docks. That X-Bite works real good for skipping. It's a skipping buzz bait. Got the keepers to hold your frogs on it. Whether you throw the X-Bite, the horny toad, a swim bait on the back of it, wherever you put on the back, the keepers will really hold that on there real good. Other baits that are coming on, they just start coming on. We usually start throwing them in October. They're usually more so November. There's always that, I don't even know what you want to call it, your gauge, or your baits that are generally the productive baits of that time of year, but there's always the oddball times when they're productive. It's like, so what I'm getting at, like your crankbaits, your rock crawlers, your wiggle warts. We usually start throwing them about now, maybe mid to late October, all the way through November into December. These will work into January. If you throw some of these little deeper ones, maybe weight them and reel them real slow, let them kind of bounce along that bottom. But right now, you're just throwing in the banks, maybe parallel, 45-degree, maybe 60-degree angle. Try to figure out what depth they're in. And then once you can figure that out, then you can more parallel in that particular depth and try to cover as much productive water as possible. These work real good on bigger main lake flat stuff, secondary flatter, 6, 8, 10 foot of water, big flat points when them fish get up on them points. And then as you get a little more into winter, then they're going to be a little more your 45-degree, where you kind of scoot a little closer. They don't want to jig. They don't want top water. Sometimes you can root around with the crankbait and really be productive. A couple years ago, Denise was in the Old Kinderhook and fished with probably one of the best crankbaiters. They are Justin McCullen. Him and Mike McCullen were big factors in creating the rock crawler. And so what a great way to really get an insight on some of the best ways, or maybe some ways to retrieve it, and times and areas was that particular tournament that you really got to see a lot of stuff on people who really lean on crankbaits a lot. But it definitely made believers out of you, and of course me, a lot more so. I'm not a big crankbaiter, I'll be honest, but there are times when it's definitely productive, and you definitely need to be throwing it. Just like we talk about topwater, if they're hitting it, you got to throw it because you're covering a lot of water. Just crankbait's the exact same thing. If they want a crankbait and they want this thing bouncing off rocks, digging in rocks that's, I don't know, 5 to 12 foot of water,
you'll know it pretty quick.
A crankbait is what you want to throw, because you're covering a lot of water, and you'll get a lot of bites. When they bite it, they normally get hooked. Sometimes keeping them hooked can be a challenge. You got little small treble hooks, and right now, same deal with the topwater. They're mad. They're coming up. They're feisty. They will try to throw it. A little bit wintertime, not so bad when they're not coming up jumping so much. But crankbait. This is that what's it called? Cold Stone. Stone Cold is a really good one. This is just the old natural crawl wiggle wart here. Got another one. Red bug might be. It's got that dark back, kind of red side, little orange belly. Really good. The rock crawlers, they have two different sizes. They've got 55 and 45. Is that right?
Yeah, they run like 4 to 7, and then 8 to 12.
Yeah, so two different depths, which is good, to where like the wiggle warts got the one depth, but the rock crawler, like here's two different ones. I don't know if you can see the bill, but two different size bills. Obviously, you want that bait hitting that rock. So if you find a fish in a depth and your bait's not getting to that bottom, you want to throw the deeper one, because you want that thing hitting the bottom, making disturbance. And when the fish are really feeding, they just eat the thing up. But when they're not necessarily feeding, real actively feeding, that will create a reaction, just bouncing off of rocks and darting around, and it'll create a bite when they maybe wouldn't bite otherwise. So, as far as bass, that's kind of what we're doing. We're really looking for anywhere the big shad will be on the bank, and that's usually bigger rock, chunk rock, riprap that's been there a while. You'll notice ledgy, shelfy rocks has a lot of moss on it right now. Those banks are extremely productive. Anything where the shad are going to be up there eating that moss, if you see visible moss, that's where your shad is going to be. That's where the bass is going to be. That's pretty much it for bass. I've been leaning on the crappie here the last couple of weeks. Got a couple crappie trips coming up. I had a crappie trip. Well, it was actually bass and crappie both. It's a good time to come down, throw a little topwater. If they're wanting it, keep going. If not, catch you some dinner, catch you some crappie. We fished a couple hours the other day for bass, and then we switched over to crappie. And I think they took home 12 big, giant crappie. And the crappie, open brush piles, look for them along bluffs, look for them in pockets, look for them alongside any dock, that looks like it might be a fisherman's dock. If there's a bass boat in it, you can usually tell if there's fish baskets on it.
Fish baskets, your
cleaning stations, the same old. If they got a bunch of crappie rods up there by their shed,
and their wire that's got their brush hanging,
there you go.
Hanging.
But the crappie, there's just different. There's so many different crappie baits out there, but like the bass, we try to make it pretty simple. This 3-inch Easy Shiner has just been so productive for us. It's easy to throw. We either throw it on a 16th or an 1/8 ounce head. I like the shad color Easy Shiner, and you just throw it anywhere you think there's brush. If you've got a live scope, obviously that makes it super easy. You can see them. You see the shad, you see your bait, you see the crappie, and you can vary your depth according to what you're seeing, how active they are. Some days they'll move 5, 6, 8 foot to get it. Other days it's got to hit them in the head and the nose to get it. You know, so
other days they follow it and.
Yep. You know, so the Easy Shiner is the most productive for us. You'll catch bass, you'll catch walleye, crappie, Kentuckies, you name it. They all eat that Easy Shiner.
And if you don't, if the 3 inches, maybe you're thinking maybe you want to throw a little smaller.
There is a 2 inch.
There is.
Literally in the same colors and that available too.
Which you're talking about smaller, you know, a lot of us have a discussion, I don't know, it was last year maybe, about how is the crappie population in the Lake of the Ozarks. You know, you hear all the BS about live scope and how it's hurting this and that. I can promise you it's not hurting the crappie population at all in the Lake of the Ozarks. I've caught more crappie that are 3 to 6 inches in the last 2 weeks than I've ever caught. They are everywhere, and I mean hundreds of them in schools. You know, so that just means our crappie population is doing good, and it's going to do good for years. I've found that those crappie are sitting a little higher a lot of times on structure, whether it be a sunken boat lift or old dock parts, brush piles, whatever. If you can throw past the school, past that brush pile, let your bait sink down below that big school, that's some small one, and get it to bring right along the bottom or creep it right over the top of that structure, that's where the bigger fish are coming up out of there. You know, the foot long, 13 inches. I had a couple of them the other day. I weighed them just for the heck of it. They were 1 pound 4 ounces, 1 pound 6 ounces. Those are big crappie, you know. Those are big crappie for Lake Ozark. Big, thick back.
Yeah.
You know, so we're throwing those for your open water crappie, open slips, you know, but, you know, obviously there's always a dock shooting bite. You can shoot, you know, so, you know, then we kind of switch it up, more of a straight tail. This is that,
B&M.
No.
I want to talk about the rod.
Okay, here. Anyway, it's I had them here. Anyway, they're called Living the Dream crappie baits. Look them up online. It's called Living the Dream crappie jigs. But he's got this one here. It's kind of I know the name of it. Ice blue, maybe? Ice glacier. Anyway, it's kind of a blue, silver, transparent. And I rig it on a little 1/8 ounce head. And these little single tail like that work a lot better for me shooting way back underneath them docks. They'll shoot better, they'll skip better, they'll fall a little better, a little more for your vertical presentation compared to that Easy Shiner that you really need to be retrieving it to get that tail to move. So we throw that on 4 or 6 pound test line on, what do you want to say about that, rods?
These rods, we ordered them from Ed Bryant down there at Bryant's Outdoors in Lori, and they're B&M sharpshooters, and they're 6 inch, 6 foot rods. And I tell you, they are great. They're great in a sense that you can cast with them, and you can also use them as a way to shoot your dock. So if you can find a rod that does both of those, I think that
and we use those a lot on bass. They're that stout of a rod, but they've got that light of a tip.
Right.
That they work great, you know, for like in Table Rock, we'll throw swim baits down there, and we know we're catching bass. So no, they're a really good quality rod.
Medium light action.
We got those at Bryant's Osage Outdoors here in Lori.
I know he'd order them for you.
Yeah, he'd order them if he don't have them in there. Those are the rods. We got the Akumas from up there, really smooth action rod reel. That whole setup is from Bryant's.
Yeah.
You know, that's our crappie stuff. That's what we're doing for crappie. That's coming on. Crappie's only going to get better. It's excellent throughout the winter. If you want to come down and just enjoy a calm, relaxing day, on the Ozarks, the winter time, late fall, all winter is the time to come down and crappie fish and just enjoy the calm and peacefulness of the lake and catching some big crappie. A lot of times it's a great time to bring, some people that don't get around so well on a boat, maybe a little older people that still want to fish. They still got the desire to get out there. And I don't care how old they are, how well they get around. I don't care if they don't get around. We will set them in a seat and they can sit right here and fish for crappie all day long and just have a good time and enjoy themselves. Yeah. I encourage you to get, if someone wants to go fishing, you get them, you call us and we're going to get them out there and we're going to catch some fish and have some good time. There's no reason not to get someone out, I want to say based upon their mobility, because we'll figure out a way and we'll get them in a boat. Both of our boats are single console where you can set them right in that passenger seat. Of course, we've got seats in the back they can sit in, but a lot of times it's down in the boat. It's very safe. They can sit right here and cast, and we can line them up with a live scope and catch some crappie, catch bass, and just enjoy the lake.
It's just it's a way to kind of slow your mentality, I guess, just kind of slows down. You're looking at the eagles. It's just a great way to enjoy just being in the outdoors. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, this time of year, you're talking about layers, and so I think, that kind of leads into, I did pick up these new gloves from AFCO. They are the waterproof gloves. They're 100% waterproof, and there's a 4-way stretch to them. And the great thing is they have these nice grip, and the nice thing, they're waterproof, and they have that stretch that in my thinking is my hot hands are going right here on top of my knuckles, and these are just great gloves for this time of year. These
might be, I haven't seen these yet. If they're waterproof, these are going to be your winter jig fishing gloves.
Because they have a stretch to them that is just incredible, and the grip here, and you can get them at the fit stores.
I don't know how they're waterproof, but if they are, it says waterproof gloves on it.
100% waterproof.
And they're from AFCO, so the quality is there.
And touchable screen.
Oh yeah, yep. Touch your screen.
Touch your screen. So, yes. So great.
Other than that, that's about what we got for fishing. A couple other things. There's a lot of tournaments still going on in the fall. You can get on Missouri State Water Patrol, look at the regatta permits, and find them and find the contacts. But there's a couple tournaments like Basketball Sports. He's got a winter series. I think the first one is this next weekend. Next weekend, just look that up. They run a nice small tournament, usually, anywhere from 18 to 30 boats probably. Easy, laid-back tournament format. A nice, good group of guys. Midwest Outdoors, they're going to run a winter series out of Kaufman. Angry Pirate, Andrew Capps, the Angry Pirate. Everybody probably knows him. Yeah. He does a Tuesday series down here at Lake Ozarks, and it's really gaining some momentum. It's a $100 entry fee. I think so.
I think so.
I think it's $100, and then they have a side pot. So Casey Scanlon won the other day. He won. He got big bass and side pot. There was 13 boats, and he took home $1,150.
Yeah, the side pot was $650.
It's a fun deal. I got a friend I'm on. He's going to come down, and we're going to fish on the 11th. It's out of Gravelous Mills ramp on Tuesday. Just show up there, and it's a lot of fun. A great group of guys. It's nothing too serious, but it's serious. And you'll get touring pros. You'll get everyone comes, they have fun, they trade information. They might drink a beer or two afterwards. There might be pizza there. It's just a good time with a good group of guys in the middle of winter to come down and enjoy the lake. So that's one to take a look at. Show me tournaments. He's got some. Angler's Choice has a couple in the winter. I'm not too sure about some others. Obviously, we got the old Kinderhook coming up in a couple weeks. Looking forward to that. Yeah. Speaking of Kinderhook and Bass and Bob, our good friend Jack Uxa, who's does more guide trips down here than anybody, has as much knowledge of the lake and fishing in general. When it comes to catfish, crappie, bass, gar, I don't care what it is, Jack will target them and he catches them.
Yeah.
He has acquired Bass and Bob, so I can't think of a better person to take over Bass and Bob and give daily information, tournament results. Talking to Jack, he's going to do a lot more videos. Everyone likes videos, and Jack's going to do a great job with Bass and Bob. So if you haven't been on Bass and Bob website lately, or if you've never been on it, look up bassandbob.com. And see what everything, there's so much offered on the Bass and Bob website, whether it be archives, you can go back years, you've got special interviews, there's roundtable discussions, there's tournament results, there's how-to videos, lake conditions, you name it, it is on there.
It just helps you before you get to the lake.
Right, I mean, we do our best with our reports, but sometimes it might be a week or two or three in between reports. But Jack will do, this will be a daily updated deal. Bass and Bob, we've been fortunate enough to be involved with Bass and Bob since the start of it. It's always been really good. Bob did an extremely great job, better than anyone else has ever done with any fishing related thing here at the lake, but I'm sure Jack's going to carry that on and do a very good job too. So if you haven't or you don't know, Jack Uxa from Jack's Guide Service has acquired bassandbob.com. So take a look at that. So we're getting into fall, so obviously you might start in a t-shirt you might start in one of these reapers. Denise has every color reaper they've ever made.
I didn't get my black out, but
I've got the camel ones. I've got every camel color they've ever made. But the reaper sweatshirt is obviously, this is the sweatshirts of sweatshirts for
little snap closures,
wintertime.
Your pocket.
You put your dry pair of gloves inside. She was talking about here, they got this little quiet little squeeze connection. I've got the camel ones that I wear hunting, and it's quiet, when you pull them apart instead of like loud Velcro or snap, these are quiet. You keep your, if you're wearing a pair of gloves, you keep your dry, warm ones in here. So when you're rotating them out, it's got the
hot hands,
the neck
gaiter.
I guess what do you call it?
Yeah, neck gaiter.
A neck gaiter you pull up on, over your head or your face if the wind's blowing, or you run down the lake. It's got a hoodie. I like the hoodie with a drawstrap. I put it up to hold my hat on while I'm running down the lake. Yeah. Keep stuff out of my ears. The air. They're super quality, super warm, and they're just a combination. You can see reinforcements in it. They got air in the armpits.
This is I would say that the number one thing right here is this neck gaiter. You can bring it all the way up underneath your eyes, and you can bring it over your ears, which when you're going up and, when you're moving on the lake, this is the greatest, the greatest part, I think.
Look at AFCO.com. Fitz Fishing sells a lot of AFCO. Obviously, they've got the winter gear. They've got rain gear. She's got these new gloves that I'm just now finding out about. These AFCOs. Gloves, I've got another pair, but they're not like these. So
I'm going to make sure they get back in my boat.
Yeah, but either way, now's the time to come down and enjoy the lake. It's going to be really good from now through early January. And then you get into, weather can be an issue sometimes, too cold. The fish are still going to bite. We can catch them all year long down here, weather permitting. If it doesn't freeze over, or if it's just too cold, it's not enjoyable.
Right.
But other than that, look us up. Give me a call at 573-204-9005. You can call me. You can text me. You can email either one of us at jdillbass@gmail.com. Denise's number.
My number is 314-226-3099. And it is a weather thing this time of year, to be honest with you. And a lot of times we found like a 10 to 2, kind of that middle of the day. That's when the sun has come up, if it's going to come up, and then by 2 o'clock you're starting to get, that cold again. So it's just a great time of year to be on the water. It really is.
We don't necessarily have to start at 7. We can come down, especially crappie. You can set up a crappie trip from, 11 to 3. 11 to 3 and do just fine.
Yeah.
Same with bass, so either way, if we can ever help you with any of the fishing stuff or guiding, we would definitely like the opportunity. But feel free to text us, call us for anything else you might need here at the lake. I don't care if it's real estate. We've got friends in real estate. Justin Swatz sells land down here if you're looking for land. Troy and Donna Myers, they're with the Jason Whittle team. They sell houses, and they all of the people we're talking about have the experience and the knowledge to find you what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Exactly what you're looking for. So, a lot of people are moving to the lake. Real estate's hot down here. Property's extremely valuable and hot down here. So, it's a great place to buy and come down here and spend a lot of time. Our restaurants are great. We're on the west side. We're constantly getting new restaurants, and a lot of good ones. A lot of good ones. We got a lot of places to eat, hang out, watch the games, whatever, on the west side now. We don't have to go to, the other side unless we really want to go over to Bentley's or somewhere really nice or whatever, So
yeah, you've got your staple of Chances Are, and then you've got your west side. You've also got the Branding Iron. Those are probably our top.
The Mexican place there,
Mexican
Greenview.
Greenview. So
there's just we've got everything over here. Obviously on the west side, we've got Bryant's Osage Outdoors in Lori. We got Osage Outdoor.
As far as tackle,
Bryant sells all of bait cave. He's got a big display of bait cave baits. And then Osage Outdoors there at O and 5. They've got a big display of Bojangles. If you're looking for Bojangles stuff, he makes a lot of good stuff. They got some more hunting things in Osage. They got a lot of different things, but either way, Bryant's, their pizzas, probably, it's 1 or 2 at the lake as far as pizzas. The pizza, I don't even know what they call their pizza place. I don't know. Bryant's Osage Outdoors sells pizza now. Jamie has started selling pizzas, I don't know, beginning of the year maybe, last year, mid-year, and they have created a big following because of their pizza and their toppings and their ingredients. So try them out if you've never tried.
And they do have a great marinara sauce. They sell it by the jars. They have the sausage, the meatballs.
You know how to
They
pronounce
also
that?
have-
Samichi?
I'm not sure.
I think it's Samichi.
Sounds right.
Anyway, it's a Kansas City-based Italian place, and they sell sausage, marinara, different things. It comes from Kansas City. It's really good quality stuff. We're actually having some friends over tonight for some lasagna, and we got the marinara from Bryant's. So,
And I gotta put a little, I don't know who sells it, what brand it is, but I love candied jalapenos. And they have smaller jars, but then they have a big jar, and I came home with a big jar.
she come home with a 5-gallon bucket.
I had it
full
on
of
my
candy
eggs this
jalapenos.
morning, jalapenos. I love them.
So, but other than that, thanks for tuning in. That's about all we got for you this time. But don't miss out on the opportunity of some great fall, fishing and the Ozark fish or winter fishing here at the Ozarks. So until next time, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you.